Ready to elevate your leadership? Follow Take Command, a Dale Carnegie podcast now. Transform inspirations into actions. Hit follow and lead with impact. Welcome to Take Command, a Dale Carnegie podcast, the show where we seek to uncover what leadership means in today's world. I'm Joe Hart, CEO of Dale Carnegie, and we will be talking to diverse leaders with stories to tell across various industries to help unlock your potential for success. We will be sharing real-life insights into leadership, which in turn can help spark the next level of your growth as a leader. Our guest today is a dynamic leader with over 3 decades of experience driving organizational change and fostering social responsibility. From her tenure as president of Things Remembered, where she doubled earnings and pioneered impactful cause marketing initiatives, to her dedicated service spanning over 26 years with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, her leadership is characterized by a commitment to making a difference. Recognized as an innovator in business and honored for her contributions to children's health, her passion for giving back extends beyond the boardroom as she has shared her experience as a frequent lecturer at prestigious institutions like Wharton Business School and Case Western Reserve University. Please welcome board member of Dale Carnegie and Associates, Suzanne Sutter Chesnutt. Suzanne, welcome to the Dale Carnegie Take Command podcast.
Great to be here, Joe.
Well, it's great to have you with me. I'm really looking forward to interviewing you. And of course, you and I have known each other for a number of years. We've had the pleasure of working together. You've graciously served as one of the directors in the Dale Carnegie Board and really an extraordinarily hard worker who's helped us have a world-class board. So I appreciate you and all that you've done for Dale Carnegie. You know, before Dale Carnegie, I think about just you've got a great story for our audience. You started in a corporate career in human resources. You really rose to the ranks, ultimately to the CEO of a 650 store organization. You've been incredibly philanthropically minded. You've been involved with Make-A-Wish. You've raised millions of dollars for that charity. And more importantly, you've actually helped organizationally with the leadership and the structure of that charity. So I know we've got much to learn from you today. Give us a little bit of a story about you, Suzanne, about how you got started and what kind of set you on the path for your life.
One of the things that really set me on my path is I became extremely interested when I was in college about how organizations develop and grow and the impact of people. And I was blessed to get accepted to a graduate program at Case Western Reserve University on organizational change. And I found my sweet spot going through that program. So following graduate school, I went to work for a retailer that was a conglomerate and had a chance to work on lots of change projects. And one of the things that I always enjoyed the most is figuring out how to make people be more successful as a leader, more successful in a store, and ultimately kind of got pushed into becoming a general manager and president. And then I found out I really had a great love for figuring out how to make organizations, businesses more successful. And if I could characterize, like the first half of my business career, I was kind of hard charging, go-getter, very achievement oriented. And then I had a sea change. I had a life-defining experience that kind of changed me into what I believe is a much better person, a much better leader, but had a profound effect on my organization in a most positive way. The sea change was being called out of the blue by the Make-A-Wish Foundation to grant a wish to a young girl who had a very short time to live. And her wish was to be remembered by giving gifts from our store that were engraved with special messages for all of her family and friends, so they would have something to remember her by after she died. And I was really taken back by the wish, and we had to move very quickly because she was already in hospice care. And I was so inspired by her selfless desire that I decided to grant her wish beyond what she could have imagined and created a holiday ornament in honor of her life and told her story on the back of the box of her wish to be remembered. And the organization rallied around it. Everybody was really excited, but I had no idea of the profound effect that that act would have on changing the culture of the company. And by the mere fact of getting involved, it began to have a really positive effect on customers. Customers saw us as a company with a heart. Employees saw us that way. And the Make-A-Wish program got bigger and bigger every year and raised millions of dollars and celebrated a lovely young girl who unfortunately her life ended much too soon. I think the biggest impact it had on the organization is really showing people that you can be an achiever, you can achieve great results, but at the same time, you can demonstrate social responsibility and caring and giving back to others. And I think the blend of the two made us a better and stronger company and made me a much better leader. And it really showed that compassion and passion can go together.
Well, it's incredible what you did and how you rose to that opportunity. And you really took this young girl and not only granted her wish, but had that profound impact on her family, on her legacy, on the organization. You started by talking about how you were hard charging, you were ambitious, you
Yeah.
were, really pushing hard. Talk a little bit more about how that changed you. How did that change your leadership? And how did it change how you interacted with other people?
It really made me sort of stand back and reflect on that life is not just about results. One of the questions I always ask myself is, how do I want to be remembered when I'm at the end of my life? And you think about your achievements, your accomplishments, but that's not really how I wanted to be remembered. I wanted to be remembered that I made a difference. And I made a promise to myself when I finished graduate school, I want to make a difference. And it took me 20 years to figure it out, literally from the time I graduated graduate school. And I found that by finding ways to make a difference in the lives of others pulls you outside yourself. But what you get back is so much greater than what you give. And I found it made me more compassionate. It made me more appreciative of others that are far less fortunate, especially children. And it also made me not to sweat the small stuff. Because when you're dealing with children who are going through cancer treatments and life changing procedures, and you're worried about sales, it kind of puts things in perspective that you really need to stand back and not get so intense about the small things because life is about much bigger things. And so I think when I did that, I relaxed a bit. I also really started celebrating not only customers, but celebrating employees and sharing the stories. I mean, I think that really was the culture shift for us. Not only did I share the stories from customers, but I also shared the stories about Make-A-Wish children and how wishes we'd helped to grant locally. Store managers got connected with Make-A-Wish chapters. They got to meet kids. So it really made our company be known as a company with a heart, not only to customers, but also to our employees. In fact, once we got involved with Make-A-Wish and we really seeded into our culture, we're the only company in Make-A-Wish history that they've given an award called the Wishmaker Award that's actually intertwined a mission into a culture. Believe it or not, our turnover of store managers reduced drastically because we were demonstrating that it's more than a job, it's really a purpose, it's a mission. You can really make a difference on the local level in the lives of others. All the money we raised, I figured out where it came from, and I sent it back to those local chapters. So the store managers in those communities knew the money they were raising was going back there.
It's really incredible. I mean, not only how you did that, I keep thinking about the comment you made about people. I think it's true of all of us that we want to do something bigger than ourselves. We want to have our work aligned to a purpose.
Mhm.
And, the fact that you found the store managers and other people, it actually affected your results. And we talk about culture and purpose and vision and these kinds of things from a leadership standpoint, really being a core. I think about what you and I and what we've all done here at Dale Carnegie when we think about a one
Yes.
Carnegie kind of culture, which is thinking about the mission, vision, and so forth. It's really powerful how people want to be a part of something
Mhm.
special and something positive in the world. I'm curious, though, I hear this a lot when you talk about people who are people first leaders like you have been, versus others who might have been maybe the first part of your career, the hard charging Suzanne. People will say, hey, you've got people like Steve Jobs or others who are really just very rough and tough and they push people. And they've got other people, our friend Al Mullally, who's truly achieved great things at Ford and at Boeing. But what do you say to people who say that you have to be a rough, push people, kind of hard charging CEO versus getting the results that you got and being a CEO with a heart?
I think you can be challenging and I think you can be demanding and set high expectations. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're rolling over people and being very, very hard charging. I think that for me, the difference was the way I'm going to be remembered is through my character and how I touched people, not only what I achieved, but how I did it and what impact I had on their lives. it really came back to me when I actually retired early from Things Remembered. And that's what people talked about. It wasn't the money I made or the successes I had in business. It was really about how I made a difference in their lives, how I made them more successful, how I cared about them, how I helped nurture them. So I think it's really about what you want to stand for, what you want your character to be about. And there have been a lot of successful executives that have been really tough and challenging and demanding. I found that you can find another way.
They're not mutually exclusive, right? I mean, you can be demanding and push people to bring out the very best and to get great results and
Yes,
still do it in a way that respects and values and appreciates people at the same time. We don't have to demean people or to create a unholy balance in their lives so that everything is 100% work and no time for
right.
anything else. I would love to have you share, though, for our audience, you did with that mindset of putting other people first and bringing out the best. You achieved tremendous results at Things Remembered. Would you tell our audience a little bit about what you accomplished there?
Oh, we doubled the earnings within a short period of time. We were very successful in growing the business. It ended up being about $300 million company, but our bottom line earnings were about 10 times. I mean, it was a $30 million company. So we were able to achieve a very profitable company, ultimately ended up selling the business for a premium in 1998. So it was very successful, a lot of stores. We built a web business, had a great cadre of not only associates, but customers. And we had a very high repeat rates of customers, which was always very joyful because you were celebrating events in their lives over and over.
Yeah, it was a special store. Do they still have Things Remembered? I haven't seen them recently. They used to be very, very
The
prevalent.
only thing that's left is a web business. The business has been sold a couple of times through private equity. It exists, I think, on the web. All the stores have been closed at this point, which is too bad.
It is too bad. It was a very memorable brand. You started this interview by talking about making people more successful, really
Mhm,
having a talent for doing that. And,
mhm.
as I think about our audience, people are at various stages of their career, but I think that's an aspiration a lot of people have. People are managers or leaders, CEOs, et cetera. If there's one tip that you had or one strategy that you have from your career about how you can make people more successful, what would that be?
I think you got to tap into what they need to learn. I think the greatest success that you can have as an individual is to be an active learner and never stop. And when someone wants to get from point A to point B, I always would help them think through, well, what are the talents and skills and experiences being very important, that you need to gain in order to achieve that goal? And adults learn when they need to, and adults learn on the job. And I found the most successful way to develop people is to give them assignments or learning experiences that will cause them to gain knowledge they do not have today. It can be done in other ways. It can be done in the classroom, et cetera, but there's got to be an application that they take away and then apply to their life. And so I was always about helping people think through, what do I need to learn and how do I go about learning it? Learning from other people, learning it from mentors, learning it on the job. So it's really about helping figure out what they need to learn experientially. It's got to be real time and involve people.
So, if our listeners trying to think about how do I apply this to my life or my work, what might be an example that you can think of where you use this approach and where you achieve kind of that ability to help people be more successful through an experiential challenge?
So one of the questions I always used to get is, how do I become more strategic? Because I got feedback on my review that I'm too tactical and not strategic. So I did research and figured out, what can I do to help my talented leaders become more strategic? Well, first, there needs to be a couple of skills. They have to be someone who really pursues questions and is willing to look wherever they can to get the answers. But to put them on an assignment that requires them to work with someone who is strategic and give them a major problem to solve that doesn't have a canned answer to it. So most of strategy development comes out of solving tough, complex problems. It could be on a task force, it could be a business problem, it could be figure out what's wrong with it, start up something new. But it's really giving them an assignment that pushes them to learning something and working with someone that perhaps haven't before to tackle something that's brand new.
Yeah, so it's more than just a check the box. It's more than a go take this program or read this or research this. I mean, that's a component to it. It might be learning something or enhancing a skill, but then putting that skill to use in a real life problem in the business.
And there's got to be stakes. I mean, success or failure needs to be possible for someone to really learn. I mean, you got to feel that if I don't excel at this, there are going to be consequences for myself. Not that I'm going to lose my job, but I'm going to disappoint someone. When you give someone a really meaningful assignment, you need to let them know that you're counting on them to come up with something successful. It's not just, a gesture. It really has meaning behind it.
And what happens when people are struggling in that process? It's got meaning and it's got the possibility of success or failure. How did you approach things if you saw people failing?
Well, you need to understand why they're failing and how can they use their resources more effectively to get some of the answers they may need. It may be their peers, it may be their boss, it may have been me, to give them guidance on what are the questions you need to be asking. Never giving them the answer, but challenging them to what are the questions you need to ask or get the answers to figure out. I mean, struggling is a good thing. It builds memory muscle. So I was never afraid to watch people struggle. And sometimes you just stand back and painfully hold your tongue to let them struggle so they do learn. Continually encouraging them to keep going and not give up.
It is hard as a leader. You care about someone and the results that you want them to get. You want them to be successful. But part of it is giving them a playing field and really trying to help them when we can, but not doing the work, right? We've got to let people stand or learn or not succeed necessarily at first on their own.
Same principles apply to your kids, right? You got to let them fail sometimes.
It's true. It's true. I think one of the biggest challenges we have is people can be helicopter parents and,
Yeah.
they go in and want to solve all the problems, and probably we could be helicopter executives at times too,
Yes.
but we really want to let people learn in the process. So Suzanne, one other thing I noticed about you, you have an incredible threshold for work. Certainly on the Dale Carnegie Board, we'll have what appears to be a very, very big problem, and you'll put your mind to it and you will get something done, or you'll task the rest of us and so forth. To me, you can do those things because of the habits you've developed over a period of time. What are some of the habits or routines that you have developed that maybe you can share with our audience that might be able to help them as they think about how can I be as productive? How can I be as effective at getting things done and getting the right things done?
Well, I've always been a laser beam, so I am very focused. One of the things I learned, I went to a time management program one time, and the first thing the teacher said is people find time to do the things they really want to do. And so that was a wake-up call for me that if I want to get something done, don't put it off, do it. I've developed great skills around prioritizing, focusing on what's most important, letting the smaller things go, and setting up timelines and deadlines for myself, nobody else, just for me. Like, I want to get this done by XYZ. What do I need to do? Map it out. What's the analysis I need to do? What's the research, et cetera? I think it's being very disciplined about yourself and your time, and also being willing to dig in and go look at different resources to find out where are the best answers. And don't just look at something easy, really dig for different approaches of how something could be solved.
Yeah, it's really important to do that and to challenge ourselves and to hold ourselves to a higher account. Sometimes it's not easy. You're talking about discipline, and it seems like that's one of the things that people year after year will say, that's my number one New Year's resolution. I want to be more disciplined, or I want to be more effective. Certainly a challenge, but when we start small, we can ultimately develop that muscle, as you've talked about. You were very successful at Things Remembered.
Mm-hmm.
You could have gone into another level of corporate leadership. You could have run a larger company.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't. You made a different decision. What did you do?
I decided that the second half of my career was going to be about giving back. And I offered to volunteer and work for Make-A-Wish. At first, they were kind of surprised, like, gosh, you'd be willing to do that? And I said, absolutely. I became what's called a turnaround queen. And I would go in and work in chapters throughout the United States. I'd stay for a year, 6 months, whatever. And I would help to figure out how to cause the chapter operations to be more successful. It was a joy. I got to meet kids and parents and lots of different professionals in different fields. But it was really a joy to really do something that was very hands-on, but it was going to have a tangible impact of touching children. And ultimately, I ended up becoming a consultant for the national organization and wrote a book on governance for them and how to operate effective boards, how to create a success model for chapter operations. And I'm still mentoring CEOs today, even though I'm not doing that full time anymore. For many years, it was a great joy to work with them at the national level and really help figure out how we can make the organization as great and effective as possible.
And as you think back about those years of doing that, are there any particular experiences that stand out that reinforce to you, hey, I'm in the right place?
I think every time I would see a big smile on a wish child's face in the process of being told they were going to get a wish or watching them on a wish, and not only that, seeing the joy in their parents' eyes, because it's a tough situation, not only for the child, but it's equally or even more difficult for the parents to watch their child go through so much pain. And so I get the question a lot, gosh, wasn't that really sad to be a part of that? Didn't that make you sad many, many times? And I said, no, it's about joy. Because yes, it's a sad situation, but you're doing something that is creating such joy for all the family, including the child, that it's incredibly rewarding. Who gets to do that? It's just a really precious gift.
Well, it goes back to what you said earlier, which is it seems like no matter how much we give, we get more back. You're giving to these families and to these children, and yet you're getting so much back in terms of just the emotion and the gratitude and the satisfaction about the impact. It goes back to what you said about legacy earlier as well. One of the challenges, and again, I think about people who are listening to this podcast, and people are very busy. All of us are busy. We've got jobs and families and a whole range of other things. What advice do you have about finding time? I mean, how do people prioritize, or do you believe that people should find time in smaller things? How do people start?
Well, I think to be the best you can be requires two ingredients. One is you have to feed your mind, you have to keep growing, developing new experiences, but you have to feed your soul, because that helps you really be the person you can be. And that may be religion, it can be giving back to your church, it can be giving back to your community, it can be small ways or big ways. But I think finding a way to participate in something outside of yourself that really nurtures and fulfills your self of being, your soul, is so important to becoming a more successful you. That if you focus all your energy just on one bucket, you're going to be lopsided. And there's going to be one whole set of experiences that you'll never have. And putting them together really makes you a much more powerful human being. One of my favorite sayings, I read this years ago by Winston Churchill, is we make a living by what we get. We make a life by what we give. I never really understood it until I got involved more with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And then I realized, oh, okay, now I understand. You can give and get at the same time.
Yeah, one of the neat things about your experience is that you did that in a very big way, right? You made a major commitment to Make-A-Wish. It strikes me that all of us, anyone listening to this podcast, we all have the opportunity to have an impact on the people around us every single day. Sometimes it can be small, but what Dale Carnegie would teach about just kindness. One of the principles is smile. I mean, the people we come in contact with, we don't know what people have, what they're struggling with, what people at work, there's all kinds of experiences that people really are weighing them down. A kind word, a
Yeah.
compliment, using their name, giving appreciation to people. I mean, these are things that do exactly what you're talking about. They help other people. They feed our soul while we're doing other things. I think Dale Carnegie quoted, I might butcher this, Suzanne, but Ben Franklin is saying, I shall pass this way but once.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, any kindness I may do, let me do it today.
Mm-hmm. In fact, I was thinking on Valentine's Day, I was in this beautiful restaurant, and there were so many really attractive young ladies there from the university. And I went up to a couple of them. I said, you just look beautiful tonight. And I so appreciate looking at young women who are pursuing education at the same time looking so glamorous. Oh my gosh, you would have thought I gave them $1,000. They were just beaming. I mean, that didn't take any effort, but being kind, sharing your positive feelings with others, again, it made me feel good.
By the way, I just want to share with people too, and again, Suzanne, we've known each other, so I've gotten to be the recipient of your kindness so many times. You are someone who sends handwritten notes out of the blue,
Yeah.
sincerely appreciative notes. You are
Mm-hmm.
someone who sends gifts. You remember important anniversaries, and not just with me, but with people throughout the organization, people in your life. That's also something I think all of us, if we're mindful of it, we can have that positive impact on others, which then leads me to this question. You've been on the Dale Carnegie Board for almost 10 years. What led you to Dale Carnegie? Of all the different things you could be doing, why Dale Carnegie?
The values of Dale Carnegie, because I've been asked by lots of different organizations and I've always said no. But when I met the people, embraced the principles, and saw how people lived them, you being a perfect example, Joe, but lived their lives according to the Dale Carnegie principles with thought and consideration and kindness, it felt like home. It felt like the right place. And so it's been an honor. to be on a board with people who have those like-minded leadership characteristics, but would be with an entire organization of people that have that. It's quite unusual. It's the closest to Make-A-Wish. And that's what really struck me, is that these are kind, caring people that at the same time want to make a difference in the world and helping people be more successful.
Well, that's really true. That really is what fuels us, is bringing out the best in other people, making other people successful, organizations successful. You had the experience too. Many people will have taken a Dale Carnegie course maybe early in their career. You took one within the last 10 years. What was the experience about taking that Dale Carnegie course for you, and how did that impact you in some way?
Well, initially I thought, I don't know if I'm going to learn that much. I mean, I have a lot of training and education. Well, I was very surprised. First of all, I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I learned a lot even deeper about the human experience. I went through it with a group of engineers, which was delightful, but they were shy and it was really hard for them to get in front of a group. But through that experience, it really made me appreciate really the benefit that that program have. It really brings out what you didn't even know you have. It brings out your skills, your capabilities in a way that you didn't believe was possible. And so for me, I ended up not only enjoying the people, but really enjoying the experience and sharpening up a lot of things that I hadn't really focused on for a while. So to me, I thought it was incredibly valuable. And it gave me an appreciation of, if everyone in the world took the Dale Carnegie course, we would be a better world.
I can't help but think about that every day. What an impact it would have if people took the Dale Carnegie course, or even read How to Win Friends, or even started to practice the principles. It would be game changing. Suzanne, how would you define leadership? What does leadership mean to you?
I think leadership is about leading the way with passion and purpose. Whatever you're leading, whether it's a department, a business, etc., there has to be an outcome or a purpose of what is really driving your leadership and your behavior and the way you're guiding yourself and others around you. So to me, it's about passion, purpose, and mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And really influencing others around that, right? Toward that positive impact. I always think about, leadership is about trying to bring out the best in others to accomplish things you couldn't accomplish alone. And you have to have that passion and that purpose and that mission in order to do that, that vision for people, to draw people along. If you were to talk to yourself, if you were to go back at the earliest stages of your career, you're just out of school, or, you've got your master's degree. If you were to give yourself one piece of advice, what might that be?
Talk less and listen more. Ask more questions of people that are in influential roles or people I admire, to learn more from them. Slow down. Take the time to really get to know people and understand who they are. Because sometimes in the process of achieving and driving results, it's all focused on the goal. I didn't take the time to learn about the people that were really a part of helping me achieve it. And once I became more aware of my style and trying to be so driving, I found that the more I did that, the more value I gained, but I got more value from them and what they contributed. So in the end, it is about people. It is all about people and helping understand what connects us and what each person has, what value they can bring. Got to take the time to find that out.
Yeah, it's ironic because, viscerally, we might think, hey, if I drive and I push hard and I push people hard, if I'm the focus, I might think I'm going to get further along. But I just think about, like you, the earlier part of my career as a young lawyer, it was not really until I started to appreciate and value and be able to interact with people more effectively, then you can have exponential impact, right? Because there's only so much that we can do, I can do, you can do by ourselves. But when we can
Right.
really work effectively with other people, that impact is just magnified, multiplied.
Yes. A leader can make a difference in how they interact with others, and how you touch them and how you talk with them and how you treat them will never be forgotten. You
Sure.
have to remember that as leader, the good things are going to be remembered and the bad things. Which one do you want to be remembered for?
That's something to think about, I think, for all of us. Suzanne, I've been ending this podcast, the last several episodes, with kind of a common approach. And I've been
Mhm.
going to ChatGPT. And in this particular case, I went to ChatGPT and I said, so ChatGPT, I'm going to be interviewing Suzanne Sutter Chesnutt today on the
Mhm.
Dale Carnegie Take Command podcast. And if you could ask only one question, what would that one question be? And I'm going to give you that one question right now.
Okay.
The question is, what pivotal moment or experience in your career stands out as a testament to your leadership style and values?
Well, I would definitely go back to the Make-A-Wish experience. I could have gone two paths with that. I could have said, okay, that was a great experience. and on with business. I had the chance to grant that wish before Christmas in 1997, and I took that time during the holiday to reflect on the important things in life. And I realized that I had been touched by an angel, and this was an opportunity that I could take a different path. I could take this opportunity of being exposed to this child and create something bigger with it. I'm so glad that I took that path because it made me a different person, and I'm a better person today because of it.
Well, and the people who have worked with you are as well. Anyone who's worked with you knows that you really have strived to bring the best out in other people. So thank you so much, Suzanne, for being on the show. Really appreciate you and look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. Best wishes.
Thanks. You too. Join us and order a copy of Take Command in hardcover, ebook, or audiobook format at your favorite bookseller or at takecommandbook.io. Also, you can visit takecommand.com for more information about the book and additional resources. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Take Command, a Dale Carnegie podcast. Check out our resources at www.dalecarnegie.com for more research, insight, and tools that will support your success and help you take command of your leadership potential. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating it and following us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. For more exclusive content, subscribe to our Dale Carnegie YouTube channel and follow us on social media. As always, thank you for listening, and we're looking forward to you joining us for the next episode of Take Command, a Dale Carnegie podcast.